Hey everyone, just a quick update, hopefully a quick update on the improvements and changes that I've made to Bollock Bands indicator. So since the last video, there's been quite a few new bits that have been added. So I'm just going to go through that and also cover a few questions that come up from time to time in Discord and the YouTube comments. So yeah, just to quickly summarize what this indicator is, it's an indicator for pair trading different assets, and there's two parts to it, two main parts to it. There's the Bollock trend line, which is this green line that's going through the middle, which flips to red here, and then there's these bands here, which are we call them Bollock bands. So basically, the idea is that you use the signal, the Bollock signal, sorry, the Bollock trend signal to tell you when to swap. So you can see here, it went from green, it flipped to red. So there's a triangle there telling you that's when you should swap. And then you can use the Bollock bands to tell you how much to swap. So that signal happened in this band here. So if you were using the Fibonacci bands, the Fibonacci Bollock bands, then the suggested allocation for that swap would have been this label here. Um, and if you'd swapped here, this was again the second from the bottom. So you would have done this suggested allocation. If you go into the settings, you can actually change these amounts. So this is a new setting. So right now you've got 100, 80, 65, and 50. So you can see here 100, 80, 65, and 50. And if I change this to say, I don't know, 55, you can see that it changes this 55 to 45 in case, and I guess you maybe want to do that if you're trying to be heavier in one asset than the other. If you're more biased towards a different asset, you might want to change these defaults. But I'll leave that as it is for now. You can also invert these labels. So that was a request from Z. So basically, it depends on how you think about what these labels are for. One way to think about it is like what you currently are before you do the swap, or you can use it as a way of telling you what you should be when you do the swap. So maybe it makes more sense to tell you what to do when the swap signal happens. So right now it's saying 100% MicroStrategy, 0% Tesla, which is what you should do if a swap signal appears, but a swap signal hasn't appeared. So right now you wouldn't follow this. So it just depends on the way you think about it. If you prefer to just be reminded of what you currently should be before the swap, then you would turn that off. So I mean, it's a bit of a dumb setting, but it just depends on how you think about these labels. Okay, so yeah, there is also another new thing which has been since the last video, which is the Bollock benchmark. So what you can do is you can use the benchmark to dial in the settings. So you can see right here, each of these triangles represents a swap, and so you can see here there's 42 swaps since the start of the year. And if you follow these signals, you get an average of 0.06 per swap. Which is pretty good, right? If you're doing pair trading, if you're aiming for 0.05, you're gonna make decent amounts of shares. Obviously, the higher the better. Yeah, you want to play with the different settings to try and get this as high as possible. One obvious or one way that I found is just not to use Fibonacci's. If you just use split thirds, which is basically binary, so you just do 100% swap one way, 100% swap another way, as per these labels, then you get a much higher average ratio per swap, which is 0.12. So if you know anything about the ratio intervals, right now, if you swap 100 Tesla shares at a 0.12 interval, you'll make about 10 shares of Tesla for free. So, for example, if you swap, Tesla at 1 point, the ratio right now is 1.24, and if you wait till the ratio goes up by 0.12, you'd make 10 shares of Tesla when you swap back. So that's pretty awesome. Obviously, a lot less trades. You only get 25 trades in the year, but that's still pretty decent, right? That's in half a year, pretty much, right? Just over half a year. So you're looking at what would that be? I think that's one a week, isn't it? Yeah, roughly one trade a week on average for the year. So yeah, going back to settings, that 0.12 is the best I've managed to tune this. But if you go into these different settings, so for example here, these settings here, these will affect how the Bollock trend setting works. So these green and red triangles will appear in different places if you mess with these these settings. So if I move that to 15, you can see how the line just moved and these triangles moved. But it's made the performance worse, so it's 0.092. If you put this back to default, goes back to 0.12. The big one, the really big one, in the last video you might have remembered, there was loads of jitter and loads of noise where the trend flipped momentarily for like one candle from green to red and back to green again. So that if you trade each of those signals, it's going to cost you a load of money in fees. But Bollock smoothing, if you enable that, or if I disable it, if you see here, there's only one swap here, couple swaps here, and then one swap here. But if I disable the smoothing, it adds a bunch of bad signals basically to this line, which if you traded, you basically trade one way and then immediately trade back again. So these are just false or fake signals. So if we just filter those out, you get a lot less trades, but you get much better trades. Cool. As well as changing the trend settings, you can also change the where are we? The Bollock band settings. So you can see here, these settings here will affect the thickness and the height and the width, the depth, whatever, of the Bollock bands. So I've actually overridden the settings and put my own manual ones in here. Again, I put these settings in here to achieve this performance. But if you want, you can use those settings, or you can change it here to these different settings here. So these are the settings that I went through in the last video where they're very similar to the IA Confluence presets. Yeah, you can changing to these different settings will change these Bollock band settings, which will then change the amount of shares that you should swap, and also potentially affect the buy and sell signals, because basically here you can see there's some suppression settings where we're basically suppressing buy and sell signals that don't appear in this middle section. So for example, if I turn this off, it will add a bunch more buy and sell signals, which you can't see here right now. But basically you can see here the performance is much worse. It's gone down to 0.062. But if we get rid of the buy and sell signals in the middle section, which is no man's land, you get this much better performance. So anyway, this is a long way of saying basically play around with all the suppression settings, play around with the Bollock band presets, and you can also customize the Bollock band settings here, and see if you can bump this average ratio interval to a higher number. So that's the most of the improvements. The couple of changes that I've made today, which I'll just quickly go through. Sorry, I know this video is already quite long, but just bear with me. I think you'll like these improvements. So the first one is that we've added a Z-score. So basically, the Z-score is down here. This is the current Z-score. So you can see right now it's minus 2.2. So basically the higher, this is like a number that can be used to, it's similar to Bollock bands in a way, but basically the way you can think of it is when it's a higher or lower number, it basically means it's further away from its mean, and the more likely it is to mean revert. So I mean, there's a spreadsheet where I've looked at the numbers. Basically here you can see these Z-scores. So there's only been 10 instances this year where the Z-score has been higher than 3. So that means that when you see a Z-score of 3, plus 3, that means it's very unusual territory, and means it's it's a very good time to swap. And to make this easier, I've highlighted the back of the cell in green. You can see it's flipping between gray and green right now, because it's right on the threshold of firing a Z-score. So I'm not explaining this very well, but basically you want this number to be as far away from 0 as possible. So if basically -3 or +3 is awesome. And to visualize this better, you can see these tiny little green diamonds here and these tiny little red diamonds here. So the brighter the color, so right now you can see these ones, this really bright red one here, and these sort of darker green ones. These are moments where the Z-score has hit a certain threshold, and you can see in the settings here that there's basically 3 Z-score thresholds. 2.2, 2.6, and 3. And as I mentioned, there's only 10 occasions where it goes above 3. So when the Z-score goes above 3, you'll see a very bright you'll see a very bright red. So that's one of the moments where it went above 3. And excuse me, down here, these ones are darker. So these are right now you can see it's minus 2.2. So that's why 2.2 is the darkest green. So that's why you can see these very dark green ones here. Anyway, I'm rambling a bit, but basically the way that you should use these, I think, is it's kind of like giving you an early warning that the signal might be about to change. So you can see here, for example, that the candles went really high up, and then we got a load of Z-score signals happening here. And so this was kind of a premonition or a prediction that the signal was going to change here. So what you could have done is you could have prematurely or early, you could have done a swap here before the signal changed, and you would have got a higher ratio. Got to be a little bit careful though, because for example, here would have been a really you should have swapped here, but there wasn't any Z-score diamonds appearing here. So not it doesn't always get it. But you can see there's a bunch here, and then it changes, it flips here, and you can see some here before it flips, but there's none here. There's a bunch here before it flips. So it's not like this definitely isn't a signal that this isn't like an indicator or a signal that you can trade solely on. You've got to you basically it's just another kind of like it's just another signal that you can use as confluence or to give you more confidence that something's about to happen. So, for example, if you see a bunch of these signals coming, just get ready and prepare yourself that it might be ready, it might be time to do a swap. And if you don't see them, then don't necessarily worry. I would personally, I think that the strongest signal is the trend line, and also the second strongest is the Bollock Bands, and then third is the Z-score signals. So I would trust them in that order if it was me trading. So yeah, and then the final thing, promise this is the last thing. So right now we've got the Bollock bands are split into three. So you've got the top third, middle third, and the bottom third, and these are the suggested allocations. But if you go into the Bollock band display mode, you can switch this to Fibonacci, which gives you these different suggested allocations, or you can go to optimal. And optimal basically gives you a running or a live optimal allocation suggestion. So you can see here, and this is based on, I mean, some of you might remember that spreadsheet where it's the ascending range model, where basically when the ratio goes up and down within this static ascending range, there was on the spreadsheet it would suggest certain percentage allocations depending on where you are. Well, this is basically the same as that, except instead of being a static ascending range, it's working out the allocation of shares that you should have based on the Bollock bands. So this top line, this bottom line, where the candle is in relation to this, tells you what your allocation should be. So there's different ways to use this. One is just like, what should you just out of interest? What's the lower risk or what's the higher risk to do? Like just to give you an idea of how you could set your portfolio up. But one way I would probably use it is when a signal is fired, you could then swap or your shares to get you to the suggested allocation. And the reason why that could be useful is because, for example, here, if you'd done this swap here, because we're very close to the 50-50 mark, you would have swapped your you would have moved your allocation to a quite a conservative kind of almost 50-50. It probably would have been about 60-40 or 55-45. So you wouldn't have this wouldn't have been an awesome trade, but it would have, but you didn't know at this point where it was going to go. It could have kept going up. So by following this suggested allocation where it's giving you 50-50 or whatever it is, it kind of keeps your fingers in both pies or whatever the expression is. Hedges your bets. That's what I'm looking for. Sorry, it's been a long day. Yeah, that's it. I mean, I personally wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't leave the setting on all the time. I quite like So just to mention this, having the setting on does mess with the benchmark. So you can see here that it's giving you 0.062. So for me, I leave it on split thirds, and that gives me the best performance. But when the swap signal happens, I might be inclined just to check optimal, just to see what it's suggesting for the swap amount. That could be one way of doing it. But yeah, I mean, there's different ways of doing this, and I'm also very interested in how you're using it. Also, if anyone's got any better settings they found where they can get this, they can dial this in and get a better performance out of it, then please share the settings. I'd love to hear from you. Cool. I think that does about just about does it. Thank you so much for it. I mean, I'm blown away by all the enthusiasm and all the comments, and that so many people using it. I think we've got up to 55 people using this indicator right now. So yeah, big shout out to 67 and Simi for the help with this indicator, and everyone else as well in the Discord. You guys are all awesome. Cool. Speak soon and take care. Bye bye.